So, the social reign of Christ the King is a phrase you'll hear over and over within the traditional Catholic sphere. It's their vision of society, and it very much ties into themes of stuff like Christian nationalism that's been in the public dialogue so much lately. Another term I would hear when I was in that world is confessional state, where the Catholic Church is the officially recognized church of the state. So obviously, no separation of church and state, violating a fundamental American principle. And yeah, it's the Catholic Church is the officially recognized church, and other religions they say are tolerated. How gracious, right? You'll tolerate other faiths. Oh, thank you. I promise you, there's not a single traditional Catholic who doesn't at least think that's a good idea. And every single trad Catholic influencer aggressively campaigns for the social reign of Christ the King to happen. Pope Francis Lee, Pope Francis Lee, Pope Francis recently said all religions lead to God, and this has had gotten the traditional Catholic world's hair on fire, even more so than it usually is. But yeah, their hair is always on fire. They're always in a state of anger, of crisis. They always need to maintain. It's always everything's a. This is all a crisis. This is all awful. It's the worst time in history. He's the worst pope. It's the worst. It's awful. Um, you can't. That's not sustainable. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. All so yeah, Francis said all faiths lead people to God. Basically the idea there is that all faiths should be respected, and you should, you have the right to yours, but you should respect someone else's right to have theirs, right? And I think all religious people of goodwill agree that, because the ultimate goal of every person should be the maximum amount of peace and happiness possible for all people. Cults don't want that. Cults want to take over the world, and the world tends to resist being taken over, I would say. I mean, every single time someone's tried it, they fail, partly because the world's too damn big. It's too big for one person or one organization or anything to dominate it. And when Jesus came here, according to what we're told, he didn't come to conquer, he came to die. In fact, he pointed to a coin with Caesar's face on it and he said, "Give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. I'm not your king, he is." According to what we're told, Jesus came as a teacher and a healer and a comforter. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Of course, there's that line in Matthew, quote, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace, I've come to bring the sword," which, yeah, reactionary tradcasts love to point to that line, which completely contradicts other things Jesus says, only, reinforcing reasonable doubt that these are not, to doubt that these are divinely inspired and were not authored by the author given. Like the Petrine epistles were definitely not written by Peter, for example, despite the church insisting they were. Um, and yeah, that's one random line that they always point to, just as they point to David in the Psalms saying all the gods of the Gentiles are demons to justify, this elitism, that this we're this, cult-like idea of we're the only people who have it right, and everyone else is so bad that there's that remaining in their religion or in their state has no benefits whatsoever to it ultimately. So yeah, all the gods of the Gentiles are demons. That's a one throwaway line they just go to town on. So really think about it. If all the gods and all the other religions aren't just wrong, they're evil, they're demons. So when they say they're going to tolerate other faiths, that's just a joke. That's just, tolerate means like do whatever we want to them essentially. And because yeah, that any sort of veneer they put up of respecting other people's ideas or faiths or cultures is immediately punctured through with further analysis of their rhetoric with just looking at more stuff they say. So really think about, really living and believing in that world and how insane that can make you. The world is not filled with demons. You can believe in the devil, but if you believe demons are on a routine basis physically manipulating the world around you, you're just factually wrong. Exorcists are liars. They contradict each other and they refuse consistently to provide proof of their claims. It's no better than TV psychics. Imagine the president was getting his policy advice from Tyler Henry. Kind of a terrifying thought. Imagine psychics controlling the laws that govern your life. It's a joke until it's not, because it wasn't in the past. The Dark Ages were called that because of the relentless suffering, bloodshed, and disease, like the plague that spread like wildfire when the church was in charge. Here's the good news. Here's the good news as I see it, though. Their stubborn refusal to fully understand the world, to entertain ideas that challenge theirs, to accept and consider contradictory evidence to their claims, and to even for a second seriously entertain the possibility that they could be wrong, it cripples them. You can't take over the world if you don't understand it, and furthermore refuse to understand it. No one succeeds who refuses to adapt. So yeah, the social reign of Christ the King, it's not going to happen. Traditional Catholics refuse to understand human biology, refuse to understand history, refuse to understand human dignity, because to them, you're evil if you're not one of them. Extra ecclesia nulla salus. Outside the church, there's no salvation. If you're not one of us, you're going to hell. You're evil if you're not one of us. That's the only logical conclusion you can get to with all this rhetoric and where these beliefs take you. Um, there, but nonetheless, many people don't. Many people within this world don't go as far as it could take you. They just, are settled into their community. It's it's their anchor, it's their safe place, and your safe place becomes a very, very profound part of your identity. And so yeah, the pews, I've firmly believe that or I know from experience that the pews of these traditional Catholic churches are filled with good, trusting, well-meaning people, but the system they are governed by is chaotic, schizophrenic, unstable, and has an impossible mission. The people in those pews are being hurt. That's the saddest part about all that to me. I believe they're being hurt, whether they know it or not. And if you're going to get upset at me for saying that, um, you as a traditional Catholic believe that about every single religion on this planet. Otherwise, you wouldn't be upset about what Pope Francis just said. So maybe take a little look at that log you got there before pointing out the splinter in mine. The work here with Dragons of Victory is to not necessarily stop traditional Catholics from achieving this what they want to do, because again, it's impossible and it's ridiculous. But what I do want to stop is the effect that this frenzied, chaotic, um, arrogant mindset that takes hold within that is permeating throughout the world of traditional Catholic, influencers and clergy who are constantly, friends and then enemies, love each other, hate each other. It's a chaotic mess. The good people in those pews are being hurt by the chaotic world they live in that they feel they have no choice but to remain in. And my hope with all of this is that somebody finds my content or finds Kevin's content or Kay Hansen or any of us and really starts to understand that these these doubts they had or these feelings they had that this isn't right or this isn't or they shouldn't have to submit to all these crazy things, that that there's a place they can go and there is an end point that they can reach where they have a more happier life, a more content life, and a less extreme, a less crazy life, because the world is naturally extreme and chaotic, and anyone who would who would decide that there needs to be a lot more of it in someone's life for no reason, that needs to stop. So thank you for watching, and I hope you fly away to victory.